I'm using this. I use this inside. Okay, now the basic changes here. Comes out of, we do the 30 movements, which is important, gives you a certain foundation for it, but we have a figure 8 motion here. Okay, now all of a sudden you're gonna, I hold, not in the middle, I hold establishing a long and a short end, okay? Here, for example, I have a 3-sided spear point. Okay, now, these are movements I kind of see as spear movements as opposed to stick. Okay, stick, I'm going like whack, ooh. But if this were sharp, ooh, that's very, very, yeah, so. This helps me out a little bit because I've got a little knob here. This is a walking stick I bought at the Nachi waterfall in Wakayama Prefecture, one of those sensei's power spots. Okay, so what I do here, I kind of hold, let's say about, I don't hold in the middle, I hold, and the long end represents what would be the sharp end. Okay, so so, and I'm looking at this a certain way, and okay, soul theory, I'm writing on a blackboard, numbers, okay. Okay, but then, I try to translate that into something. So let's go nuts. Passing through that curtain. On that side, the stage right, you've got your mind in one section, your body in the other. They're kind of working back and forth around topics. Pass through that curtain. And it's like a filter. And a lot of the I is kind of left in the curtain, and there you are. And boom, 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 boom. Now, what are those moves? So, for example, here I got a long and a short end. It's a figure 8. Now, long end up, free hand, thumb up from the bottom, palm up from the bottom. Long end up, free hand. Well, that's what I call fire water change. Now, rotate it again. This is long end up, free hand thumb down. You can make the change, water to fire, fire to water, both from the top and the bottom. Bottom, bottom, top, top, and the long end is always potentially for me the sharp end. Okay? So you have a figure 8. And now here, for example, what I did, figure 8, bottom, top, I established some form of the flow continues in that direction. We go this way. Now we go top to bottom. We get continuation of that in that direction. So those are just basic changes. I think about it a little bit like ball handling drills in basketball. I can't bounce this here because I get complaints from people. So right. But you're going this way. No, there's that motion, 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 that motion. Okay. So, I know he's injured right now, but Stephen Curry, he does a lot of drills. But the ball for him is like a staff or spear in Sensei's hands, okay? So if we examine this, for example, now what I'm adding stance, which is here we're just going. We can continue top, bottom, top, bottom, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top. Now we go into the hand changes, for example. I go this way, thumbs in. That's the first change. Second change, thumb space. Third change, thumb space you. Now there's also fourth change, the weight under change, not put your weight out there. Fifth change allows me to get into the figure eight. That's where I use it. Fifth change is, right? And so I'm combining the various 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s with the top to bottom, bottom to top. Now we're adding a turn, and we're adding one-handed, no stance. Stance establishes the point and a base. Now turn, every step. We have that relationship. And what I just did is going that way. All of a sudden, I change of direction. Change of direction. Right? Boom, curry goes this way. Somebody shifts their weight on the front foot, he changes. So look at this change, and this change, and this change. Okay? So, Cliff, anything you might want to add to that or not?
Just that I realized I need to spend more time practicing my fire and water changes because I'm a little clumsier than I was the last time I did it.
Well, if you go to a basketball camp or something like that, you might not have done the drills they're presenting, so you're going to not do very well. Okay. The Warriors have a guy. He was actually, I think it was the second. Yeah, in other words, African American, Black American. NBA has always been progressive. First non-white coach was Bill Russell. But the second was Bay Area, Al Attles. And Attles graduated from being a player to a coach to a general manager. And now he's just, mythological being, but his number is retired. But in the days before talk show radio, I was asked to go into a weekend thing they were filming. It's a precursor of phone in, give your opinion. And so there's Al Attles, and I'm walking to the studio, and all of a sudden he pulls up, and he's wondering where to park. Well, I just, and so he sort of, we didn't talk or anything, and then, the actual program starts, and then he's introduced and everything like that. And I kind of, your question answer. And I kind of went where I said, I think this is what you should do with your backcourt. They had a really good player who was kind of caught between being a point guard and a shooting guard. And I said, well, this is a guy that I would bring off the bench as these days they call that a combo guard. You could create offense by being a ball handler, passer, or you can score. Okay. And so, I told him what he should do with his backcourt. And so what happens is he just winds up, he goes like this and looks at everybody and says, that young man, which I was much younger then, wants to be coach. And everybody cracks up at my expense, because I had the whole thing diagrammed. This is your rotation, da-da, 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 da-da. And then so what was interesting is, it was like I was putting him on the spot, and why aren't you doing that? And so he comes up to me and says something to the effect of, I hear what you said. There are problems doing that right now in the locker room. I'm like, okay, cool. You know more than I do. The team stinks anyway, because, they're not in the current era. It was in a very bad era. And then I think it was a couple of years. Well, it had to be a couple of years because my daughter wasn't born. Now she was much younger, but then she grows up a little bit and she starts playing basketball. So the Warriors conduct a camp locally, and Al Addles, of course, is leading it, and so he's demonstrating this drill, with 2 basketballs drilling. Now everybody does it because Curry does it, but I'd never done it in my life. And so he looks at me like, I remember you from that talk show, and he has me get out there. I was awful. Everybody laughs because nobody those days is dribbling 2 basketballs. But that area right there, well, I could do 1, 2, but all of a sudden 2. Well, you got to step through that curtain, don't you? Everybody's gonna mess up. But on the other hand, go, okay, this side of the curtain, easy. And so for example here, we're kind of doing these changes. And what I'm doing is now I'm walking in a circle. There's an internal Chinese art called Bakwa, where you walk the circle. Circle, now we're not that, but when you're walking the circle, what are you doing? You're creating triangles. Triangles. Now you reverse, you create another triangle going the other way. This isn't quite Bakwa. I'm doing this, for example, there's one on the other side of the curtain that trips and drops. And you're going to make mistakes on this side. Curry misses shots. He makes bad passes. But there's a certain area where you're passing through that curtain. And all of a sudden that curtain's kind of transparent, and you're transparent too. You're on the other side. Now there, we're doing the same. Thumb down from the top, thumb down from the top, thumb up from the bottom, thumb up from the bottom, and we're doing what I just did right there is a reversal. Any point in that circle, triangle can go to the reverse triangle. And what we can do with that is a fire water change. This is a double fire water change, which is a little fancier. Because you're going ABBA, ABBA, and ABBA. So there are rhythms and changes. I mean, you try to do any of Stephen Curry's drills, and you're going to dribble the ball off your ankle or knee or foot, and you're going to feel dumb. You're on this side of the curtain. See, some people can do that stuff forever, and they stay on this side of the curtain. Transparency touches transparency. And that transparency, whatever's not transparent, passing through that transparency, little by little, you filter out. That's about the only way. Well, since they called it misogi. Okay, Cliff, anything?
No, that all sounds good.
Yeah.
I'm starting to loosen up a little bit, I noticed, so that's good.
Well, what happens is, Al Addles gets me out in front of the whole, I mean, it was, like parents bring their kids to a warrior community camp. It's open to anybody. There's no charge for it. Okay, and the coach, general manager of the Warriors, and there might have been a couple of Warrior players there, and it was fun. then you get singled out, right? Like, oh, I remember you from that talk show. Come out here. I'm like, oh no, but you see that happens, right? That happens. Like all of a sudden you're on this side of the curtain. Now, I checked. I haven't done it since the pandemic, but I used to go to the Y and try some of the drills with two basketballs. Curry goes one hand, the other hand he's just flipping a ping pong ball, and then he goes, yeah. And really, the way that he puts it, and I'll phrase it differently. It's okay. Everybody starts out on the other side of the curtain. Certain people learn how to pass through the curtain. And then there's another level of curtain, another level of curtain, and another level of curtain. Nado Sensei calls that dimensionality. There's Bobby. Well, there's a curtain. Bobby is easy, passes through that curtain to Robert. Robert's a little more capable, Bobby's back there, right? Then Robert, passes through that curtain to Nado. And there's Nado, a bit more capable, a bit more commanding, whatever it is. There's another curtain. And Nado passes through that curtain to Nado Sensei. See, there's an area right there. And they're all going on. And sometimes, you get to so good. So you can go from Bobby to the other person on the other side pretty quick. So you begin to realize that Bobby has certain thought patterns. Bobby fumbles, and Bobby is always there. But we can, there are some passes that I watch Curry make, and you could call him Steffi. Why did you throw that long angular pass that some athletic freak can intercept and take for a dunk? But he does, okay? But he does so many other things. So, Okay, anyway, where are we? Yeah, so patterns. Thumb down, thumb up. We do a figure 8. Now I hit both from the bottom, thumb up. Palm up, palm up. Palm up, palm up. Now we go to the continuum move. All the while, you see the long end is the sharp end. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Now all I'm adding walking the circle, triangle walk. Normal walk. You walk, there's a circle here. You're forming triangles with your feet as you're moving. Now the question is, can you? And basketball, that's a spin move. Going this way and that way is a crossover. All right. Now the trick is, see the staff itself represents kind of a continuum. The continuums become a bit more complex as you pass through the curtains. Okay. And sometimes if you're used to passing through them, you don't notice them that much. Okay, there's probably pregame Steph and Curry. Yeah, I missed that shot. I made that bad pass. I missed that defensive rotation. But he can't take that into the game. He has to kind of, maybe it's a couple of things. I'm sure he has people tape his ankles. He steps out, dribbles the ball a couple of times, just get the feel. He's out there pregame shooting. Those are all curtains. he's interacting with his teammates, so it's not just him in an empty gym. So the communication factor. And then there's the tip off, and then there's the game. And if all of a sudden he's a guy that just sort of walks into the basketball, now he's passed through a couple of curtains. All right, he's got his ball handling, he's got his shooting, he's got his passing, he's got his defense. And so you hit to some degree, which you might call a championship level of yourself. In other words, you can. Okay, now one thing that we haven't done is two-handed figure eight. Right hand, left hand. Not arm swinging. Starts really from your feet. Feet. Hips, move off of that. Off of that, there are these changes. I was going primarily from my left, but all of a sudden, boom, 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 boom. That was a double change. Boom. Okay. And I guess, my own particular thing right here is, what do I do to train? Well, this is something I do. I do it every day. I mean, I have a couple of basketballs in here, but I can't go bam, bam, bam. I went outside and there's a courtyard. I was doing that, and people complained because of the bam, bam, bam noise. So they can take away my basketball, but they can't take away my spirit. Okay. Any questions or comments?
Other than if I accidentally hit something with my Joe, it's even louder than a basketball.
Oh yeah. And there were consequences, yes.
But no, I'm continuing to try those switchbacks and I can see that a lot of that is also in the 30 movement, and so I'm feeling some flow.
Yeah. Now what, for example, if we kind of go back, it's not, okay, let's say we have a form, right? 30 movements. Number one, instead of starting out with all the martial, we're gonna back up. This is kind of my thought. Since they were starting pretty original. So he was starting at, because we get so caught up in all this stuff. He's starting at a very original curtain. Consciousness, becoming conscious. Consciousness starting to move. Upper realm, energy. Down realm, matter. And encased in energy and matter, boom, consciousness is still conscious. And here we are in a material world, heavy, and we're biological matter, very complex, and the eye can possess. But start out. Consciousness becoming conscious. Deepak Chopra, beauty becoming beautiful. Intelligence becoming intelligent. Power becoming powerful. That consciousness separating, or out of that consciousness splitting into what we might call more the energy, the mind dimension, and matter, the physical body dimension. And there we are, positioned on that floating bridge. That very important. See, all this stuff. Start original. Now we're starting with the triangle. No, nothing complex. The thrusting motion, the up and the down motion. Now we're going to switch sides. Go to right, you go to left, go to left, go to right. Now we're going to turn the beginnings of turning. But we made a hand change there. Boom. Now we're going to step, turn, pivot. That's much more extreme circle. Back, front, rotate, back, sweep, front. Now we go into the double figure eight, two hands. Step back. First of the fire water changes. Turn, no step. Fire water change, sweep, step, turn, pivot, boom. In. Okay. And there are a series of hand changes, so you're learning. Beginning to. You may not be able to do that today. Okay. So, we have check the time. Yeah. We have a 30 movement set that we do. Gives you kind of the basics. Okay. Any thing you want to add or whatever?
No, just it's good to go from the freestyle to the 30 movement and back. That's helpful.
Well, the freestyle, yeah. I mean, to me, depends on which direction you're going. This is a building block basic for what we're doing. But I almost think that what Shiba O-sensei did, it's like, okay, you start there. Most people start there and they try to go back to a more original, whatever. But I think he kind of he understood how to pass through that curtain from the beginning. And so, off of these moves, what stops you from passing through the curtain is attachment. Bobby is attached to Bobby. So my body has to become easy, non-attached to Bobby, in order to pass through that curtain to Robert. And Robert, using the Do-sensei's cosmology, has to let go of Robert, non-attachment, to go to Na-Do. And Na-Do is pretty capable, but he has to pass through that curtain to go to Na-Do sensei. Okay? So within all that, now here there are fancy changes that I can do. You can't do this with a Hakama. Now careful because you go or but boom, 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 boom. When would you use, for example, this change? Somebody's attacking you from the back, and you have time to turn. Boom. And then somebody says, "Oh, not standard, and regular spear is much longer, so it's too unwieldy." If I were in the samurai days, we might have a spear about this length, because spear can cut as well as pierce. And when it's shorter, boom, 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 multiple attacks. So we get a variety of things that we can work on. Let me see. Let's make sure I don't have my clock where I can see it. Never. So, a little bit of background for, see, the improvisational level play, or attempt to play jazz, so to speak. You're still following a chord structure. Your feet are still triangular. When you start to walk the circle, then all of a sudden, you're really, your feet are in triangular patterns, okay? Just even in the basic movements like the thrusting motion. What was Osensei's genius? Well, you could talk about the triangle in many forms here. But, for example, this is referencing the basketball. This is very difficult to do unless you're way ahead of somebody's foot, because you have a defender here. You try to go this way, there's somebody between you and the basket. Okay? If you can really shoot, they put it really close to you, so but you have to have lateral movement. Your lateral movement gives you separation, or conversely, you create space for that. Well, this is the way we walk. For us, all of a sudden, this is lateral movement, lateral movement. Well, the triangle, the thrusting pattern, well, since they're entering, was taking our usual front-back motion into the lateral dimension. If you look at it, that's a straight thrust. But the hips rotating creates a spiral. And right here, that's a straight, but the hips rotating creates a spiral. I'm off the line. Right. And getting off the line, you're also getting your hips and core into that motion. So the basis of the 30 movements, the first 10 introduce the beginnings of Tai Sabaki, body changes. They're hand changes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But major change in Aikido is entering, you read me, and turning. Now I'm a little radical. Enter, turn, enter, turn. The way I look at it, the entering motion, continue to enter, becomes a turn. Continue to enter, comes a turn. So they're connected, all right. But if you go there, see your turn comes off with the entering, and you keep entering. There's a turn. That's my assessment of it, and it's not taught that way. Cliff, anything you feel like adding on that, or?
That last thing you just said was really interesting. Thank you.
Well, it's not taught that way. Okay, you're sitting under a tree and an apple hits you on the head when it falls down. Okay? And if we really look at it, most of us don't think about space, time, matter, and energy that way. But, if you've been around long enough, you realize, what's out there is really just dependent upon the level of me. Okay, so what's out there, oftentimes at the denser levels, I am defined by my reaction to what's going on. Bobby or Jackie. You're easy there. Easy means my breathing kind of quiets down a little bit. My head, the noise is going on, but the noise creates stage fright. Oh my God, I got that out there and try to make people laugh or something. But you pass through that curtain, and the curtain, there's an opening, which is non-attachment. You're on the stage and you're wherever you are. Okay. The t-shirt I'm wearing is a British actress. She's probably still best known for this character. She got also very famous for playing Game of Thrones character. And she's kind of like Sensei, you know, this is when she was young and she was a classically trained actress. And all of a sudden went on TV and became a sex symbol. Okay. And then decades later, she was on a very major TV show called Game of Thrones, nominated for an Emmy. And, you know, she's a classically trained actress. She's, after this exposure, she kind of basically decided she prefers stage to screen or television. But she had to, all of a sudden, she said, oh my gosh, I'm a classically trained actress. And all of a sudden, they put me in these weird outfits, and I get all these strange fan letters from the opposite sex, so to speak. I actually wrote her a letter, although it wasn't that strange. But, you know. So any thing about the curtain effect, call it a gateway.
I think it applies pretty broadly, right? Like not just sports or martial arts, but any artistic or creative endeavor. You know, it applies to, I don't know, getting bar mitzvah, right? Like, you know, you have to go out in front of the congregation and do the thing, and just, you know, any situation where you have to kind of level up, like for writing, you know, like you're writing a story and then you submit it to a pro publication, right? That's a big deal, right? So that kind of thing. I think we spend a lot of time as human beings in a state of anxiety about the next curtain, really, right? And if we could approach these curtains with much less anxiety and more kind of just embracing the moment, I think we would be happier. So and more successful at the things we're trying to be successful at. So there's a lot to think about. Thank you.
Yeah. And sometimes, you know, what happens is what happens on the other side. I mean, everything's light dark. Diana Rigg, you know, she's a classically trained actress, right? Doing Shakespeare, Royal Shakespeare Company, Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. And she auditions for this spy show. Initially gets rejected. You know, they only pick one, but the producers realized that the lady they picked, physically very good, but she lacked a certain sort of humor. And so they remembered her and they retested her. And she got the part. And then all of a sudden, you know, she winds up being famous. I'm sure a stage actress, classically trained, you know, you're more into your craft. You're not into popularity. And all of a sudden she gets all this fan mail. Some of it, I mean, you know, all of a sudden, you know, she's a sex symbol. And some of the fan letters, I'm sure, are pretty weird. Mine wasn't, by the way. And for the record, I got a photograph back with a signature, but it was obviously part of the photograph, so it wasn't like it was a personal event. But what happens there is gee. So, whether you step through that curtain, you don't know what's going to happen. All of a sudden you're this, and all of a sudden you're on everybody's imagination. Okay? Be surprised the number of guys of my generation that were in love with her. It was amazing, In fact, I still am. Okay? So let's see. Oh, we are at that time. So, I use this because it helps me to remember to pass through those curtains. People don't realize this, but you're getting to class and you've done all this stuff back before you step on the mat. There's a curtain. And then, at the end of class, it's not you're stepping back into that world, but I think there's almost like we're going through another curtain to say, okay, whatever I've gotten from this class about Aikido, I'm going to take into what you might call your ordinary life. All of a sudden, you've passed through a couple of curtains, so you're not the same level of yourself. And some of this, somebody asked me who inspires you the most these days. Unfortunately, he got hurt because the rest of the team's been so bad. He had to carry too much. Sooner or later, emotionally, that weighs on you. It's Curry. I see him just pass through curtains nobody else passes through. Is he the best basketball player? Not really. But I've never seen anybody in basketball that passes through the curtains like he does. And so, I study him. And just because you pass doesn't mean that you don't make mistakes or miss shots. Okay? But that championship level of ourselves, that major, so many great talents go right up to that championship curtain and they can't pass through it. They may win, but, it's like, but, and being able to, okay, here I am in a very reactionary I state. So settle, there's a curtain. Settle, there's a curtain. Settle, there's a curtain. And off of that. You're still carrying that, and easy with it. Even another curtain. Oh. Okay, so I use this as a, I don't dribble basketball because I get kicked out of here, but okay. Anyway, let's see, Friday. So we will be on for in-person Sunday Aikido Mountain View. Thank you.
Thank you, Sensei.
Okay. Okay, recording, stop.